Alrighty, I gotta show you a part of this ABC report that made me so mad.
Our business editor Ian Verinder joins me now. Ian, just talk us through this suspension of the spot market, the significance of it and what it means.
Well, it's hugely significant, David, because this is the first time since the market was privatised back in 1998 that this has happened. We've never even come close to anything like this happen. And to put it into perspective, we've now got price caps on gas, one of the key fuels for electricity generation, and price caps on electricity generation itself. So the regulator has essentially seized control of the market in terms of both price and output. You know, as we just heard then, there was no guarantee that we were going to get adequate supply. And, you know, to put it into a little bit of context, at $300 a megawatt, which is what the price cap is, the average price per over a course of a year for New South Wales, for instance, would have been about $70, a little bit cheaper in Victoria, a little bit more expensive in Queensland. So, you know, we're talking about a price cap of far in exceeding what we're normally used to, and the generators still haven't been able to make a profit out of that, which is why they've reduce their input into the system.
And as Mel explained there, that's going to mean higher electricity bills for consumers.
Who's going to pay for all of this? So if we're all going to be paying $300 a megawatt hour at the generation side, which is, you know, 4 or 5 times the normal price, that will be passed on to retailers, and they in turn will pass it on to the likes of us.
See, what the fuck was that? This is ABC. This is meant to be informing us. But no, they have their business editor come out and they ask him to walk us through the suspension of the spot market and what it means. And he mentions the usual price, which was like $60, $70, and he mentions the cap, which is $300 a megawatt per hour. But the way he talks about it would make someone think that the prices were $70 and then the cap brought it up to $300. And therefore, with the prices being set to $300, that's why it's gonna be so much more expensive now. It's like, come on, Ian, why would they put a cap in place to bring up the prices to make things expensive? See, that's why this got me so mad, because obviously the ABC has a much bigger budget than I do and has many more people working for them, but yet my TikTok videos seem to have more relevant information.
$1,359,100 over a 7-day period, so over a week. That then triggers a automatic cap. But the idea is, you're spending a bit too much on electricity, we've got to bring that down again. The cap is $300 a megawatt per hour. We see to reach that threshold in a 7-day period, it would have to be around $600 megawatt per hour.
So what Ian should have said is the spot market being suspended means that the threshold of $1,359,100 was reached in a 7-day period, which is 2016 trading intervals. And so everyone's on the same page. The reason there are 2016 trading intervals in a week is because it's every 5 minutes, so that would be 12 times an hour. 24 hours in a day makes it 288 trading intervals in a day, times that by a week, that gives you 2016. And so dividing the threshold by the amount of trading intervals shows us roughly how much megawatts per hour must have cost to reach the threshold in that time, and we see that it's $674. That's a lot more than 300, isn't it? And you know what else this means? This means that if it was just $500 for a week, they would not have reached the threshold. Do people understand what I'm saying? And so yeah, ABC should be embarrassed to have your business editor go on there and let people think that the price caps are what's driving high prices without mentioning the prices that led to reaching the threshold and therefore triggering the price caps. Absolutely disgraceful. Now let's pick apart the rest of what Ian had to say.
So how did we end up here? I mean, it's been described as a perfect storm. What are the factors that have put us in this terrible place?
I think the overwhelming factor is probably 20 years of debate over climate change, whether it's real, whether it's not real. Generation companies have not known which way to turn. Do they invest in coal-fired generation for another century? Do they pull back and put money into renewables? They put some into renewables. But they've kept these coal-fired generators going far beyond their capacity. There should have been a lot more investment in, just the maintenance of them, keeping them going.
Oh, and how Ian said for the last 20 years there's been a debate on whether it's real or not. I just hear, so for the last 20 years people have been ignoring this catastrophic problem. Well, other people have been trying to draw attention to it, but 20 years. So I don't know if people that are much older understand how fucked it is hearing that when you're like 28 years old. Because you really were just dragging your feet because you obviously knew, you just didn't want to do anything.
Burn any organic matter, and its content of carbon combines with oxygen. Burning a cubic meter of natural gas produces roughly 2 kilograms of carbon dioxide. A litre of gasoline, 2.5 kilos. Burn a ton of coal, and you release up to 4 tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Since 1850, the consumption of these fossil fuels has increased 100-fold. Our energy-consuming way of life may be causing climatic changes, with adverse consequences for us all.
And surely other people find it crazy that there's these debates where the people arguing that whatever the issue is isn't really that big a problem are usually the ones that seem to financially benefit from said problem. Weird that, isn't it?
We aggressively fight against some of the science. Yes. Did we join some of these shadow groups to work against some of the early efforts? Yes, that's true. But there's nothing illegal about that. We were looking out for our investments. We were looking out for our shareholders.
Alright, we got another minute of Ian talking, and I have a lot to say about what he's about to say.
And the other problem, of course, that we've got is we've sent so much of our gas offshore that we've created a shortfall in the domestic market for gas, which has then forced the price of gas, a key ingredient into electricity prices, because it cuts in right at the very end. When you don't have enough energy during a spike in demand, you turn on the gas generators and they add quick supply into the market that keeps the price down. So gas is like the swing price. And if you get a big spike in the price of gas, the price of electricity rises.
I think this is what's so galling to so many Australians, the fact that Australia is such a resource-rich country, that we export so much LNG, coal, that we're so, available for renewables, and yet here we are in this spot.
Oh, well, it's ridiculous when you think about it in those terms. I mean, we're one of the biggest exporters of LNG in the world. We vie with Qatar for being the dominant force. And in terms of coal, we are, I think, the biggest seaborne exporter of coal. So it is just mind-boggling that this could happen. The gas story in itself is a tragic tale of misstep and miscalculation the entire time. The companies that actually export the coal, the gas, miscalculated how much was in the ground. Forward sold contracts to China and Japan, which they're now exporting to, at the expense of the domestic market.
Yeah, Ian Verinder, it is an astounding situation. Thanks for walking us through it.
Thanks, David.
Oh, there's so many points I need to make. Alright, first of all, these gas companies are paying fuck all tax. Let's get that out the way. Secondly, we're exporting it all, so these companies are making a lot of profit off of us, and then we're the ones that get stuck with the shortfall. Ian said these companies miscalculated how much gas was in the ground and had contracts to already send it all to Japan, a country of 125 million people, and China, a country of 1.4 billion people. But yet, the country with just 26 million people, where the gas came from get stuck with the shortfall. But yeah, when people say things about solar and wind, like, what are you going to do in the dark? What are you going to do when there's no wind? I always think, what are you going to do when you run out of coal? What are you going to do when you run out of gas? But now I'm also starting to think, what are you going to do if you just sell it all? Don't leave any for yourself, huh? And yeah, this will be the end of this video. I just had to get it out my system because watching this ABC report had me screaming at the TV.